Hi, Karen.
I got the ratio from Brandon on like how much is actually in their sense. Okay, well, it's a small amount, it's like less than 6% of like the whole bottle is. So, but then, I was looking at our stomach ache, that we also suggest for this, and like pregnant women and stuff, and it's got 60% plus peppermint oil. So we'll talk about like possibly like. Like with the women, like we have when we have they're always pregnant, like those type of people. So I started thinking about possibly like reformulating it, or like lowering the dose of like. And like sluggish digestion and bloating. It helps with nausea and upset. Yeah, and we have ginger. We have fresh ginger and ginger root in here, and that, which are all the things that are like these are the best things for stomach. Like, I found on the internet. Like, I'll talk to Tracy when she gets back about it.
I don't know where you put it. Might be
and it may be that like we just like keep it at like what it is and stuff, but if it's something that we can also promote for people that are nursing and stuff, because when I was nursing, like it made me nauseous when I was doing it, and like then especially right after birth and stuff, like if you're after being like you're cramping and you're nauseous and like everything's just like ugh. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I can hear you guys in a very. I can hear myself back over as well.
Here, let me plug in the thingy for her.
They're looking for it.
It was right here.
Garrett came and grabbed it.
Well, tell him to get it back. Where did he go? Brandon went for it?
No, I got it.
She's got it.
Okay.
Do we have sound now? Can we hear now?
I can hear you guys just fine. I could hear myself back, and I believe it that has been fixed.
Okay, we can hear you now. We just
Okay,
need
perfect.
to turn it up.
Is there somebody else coming in?
There's a lot of people in.
Who else invited?
Well,
Karen, Kate, Tracy, Vanessa.
You've got 4 of us.
All right.
Can't tell you
I
that
believe
I just see-
Garrett is supposed to be coming in as well.
okay, well, he wasn't in his office, so.
I just had a chat with him a while back, and he said he's going to be in. But in the meantime, we can get started with a very basic overview. I already had this overview with him in the last session. Now, the agenda here is the PLM, which is the product lifecycle management. Now, more than a system process, it's going to be a management process on your end. Now, why the need? Because I have seen with the products that sometimes when the products are being defined, there is multiple hands that touch the product, but there is no defined process as to who does what at what time. Now, this is a completely modifiable process as we go in. It doesn't control what's added and what's not added, and it doesn't validate those things itself, but it's a management process which will help you run things through a specific series of stages when you're defining or redefining your products. For now, I'll just get rid of this, and I'll show you the stages that we have. Based on the discussions that we originally had in the simulation process, every product, when it's defined, if it's a product that has to be a finished good, essentially it will be defined in terms of how the product looks, the look and feel, the interfacing on the website, and the product price criterias, the product marketing strategies, labels, and everything, right? So if it's a finished good, it touches through marketing, in the product definition stage. And then the next step is when you have finalized what product you're going to offer, it goes through the operations stage where everybody in the operations defines how the availability will be handled, what the bill of material is going to look like, plus any other criteria for how the replenishment of the product will be taken forward. Then next step, it touches the finance in order to make sure that all the other details added by other people is right. And then finance takes a look at the product costing, the chart of accounts that go with the product, as in the income or expense chart of accounts, the category chart of accounts, the costing and the valuation methods. And in the final step, quality verifies everything else plus adds their quality checks to the process of product manufacturing. If it's a manufactured product, it's an OVP product, you may be defining your quality checks for that product in the receipt process. And then finally, when you have everything go through these stages, your ECO could be considered complete. Now, in the ECO types, we have defined 4 types initially, and it's up for revision whenever needed. So there are 2 types that are for the finished goods, the finished products. First up is definition, and just the name doesn't decide if it is different in the operations itself. Can you guys see it better now?
Okay. I had to go put it on full screen. Now it's better.
All right. So the ECO types, there is a lot of jargons going around. So PLM is product lifecycle management, as we already established. The ECO is engineering change order. Now, engineering change order is a generic term applied to product lifecycle management in all criteria. If it's a manufacturing concern who does process manufacturing for products like you, or if it's a company that produces or builds cars, they have the same terminology going around. So the ECO stages and the types are completely definable. Now, in the types, we can define what type name is. This means there is no functionality change, it's just a variation of understanding how many things in a certain criteria are going around. Now, next step, for every ECO stage, if I open one up, let's say ECO initiated is the first step, it applies to all types. Because when you start working with this thing, the ECO, the engineering change order, gets initiated at this point. When you start working with it, marketing is the second stage that comes in, but it's only available for the finished goods because any WIP products do not have interfacing to the website or selling prices or anything else around that. But if it's finished goods, marketing has to do 2 approvals. They have to manage through the product media, and product media means however many images you need to add. There is a whole process that we define for that, and the process, I'll open up that in the side as well. And the second one is the pricing and position, which means setting up the price list, the baseline pricing, the promotional pricing, if there is any discounts offered to retailers or to the end customers, if it needs to be part of any marketing strategies you're building, you do all that. Next up, we go to the second stage, which is operations, and operations will be involved in all stages, all types, right? Anything that goes through. Right now, we have this many people involved. So when it reaches to the stage of the operations, product category, Garrison is the person approving that. So is it assigned to the right category? Because Jim left and Vanessa is not 100% filling in for Jim for the overall activities, we could set Vanessa here for this thing if required. But initially it's Garrison who's set here. So product category verification, is it assigned to the right category? Bill of materials, is it assigned to the right bill of materials? Is the bill of materials created and is in place in the correct way? The availability, making sure that the product routes, the setting of how the product will be made available is correct, and setting up the replenishment rules. If it's a finished good product, I'm not sure who's going to handle this at the end. Maybe it's Garrison, maybe it's State, but for now I've seen Renee talking through the replenishment rules management. That's why Renee is going to be the person as of right now. It can be changed, it can be a different person. Then design drawings, blueprints. This means the labels as they're designed, the packaging design, whatever it may be, you do and verify the whole thing there. Next step,
Wouldn't that be Cassie?
I think it said that under
I
here, didn't
thought it
it?
said Garrett.
Did it?
um,
Cassie does all the labels and packaging and all that. That's
okay,
marketing. And when you say product category, is that the category it shows up on the website, or
no,
is that
no,
just an
No, that
internal?
is the,
internal
that
one,
is
internal one.
all of the stuff goes on
Okay.
financial statements and through inventory.
Okay. Thank
Now,
you.
the next stage, you're welcome. The next stage is finance. Now, the finance verification, because the category has already been assigned, right, in the previous step by operations, finance's approval stage is making sure that everything is set right, and finance verifies all the details. Right now, it's going to be Karen, but it could be some other person doing this thing. We can have multiple people do this thing, right? There can be multiple people in the same role that can do the approval. Next up, the next stage is quality, and verify all data and apply quality checks is the thing that Vanessa does. So she verifies, since she's managing quality at the moment instead of Jim. It could be a different person moving forward, but this is what it is. Now, at any point in time, as we started with the marketing stage, we could add the role to be inclusive of all the instructions in here, right? We can define any set of instructions in here, but it's not favorable. So there should be an internal process movement based on what we see here. So if I go in and I talk about the marketing first level product media, there is a process that we defined during the simulation to do product media, right? Product media means making sure all of these things are set right. You see, there is a whole process around that. Define a name, add an image, add a sales description, and then attributes if they're required moving forward, cross sell, upsell products, and everything. Add extra images, out of stock message, decorative ribbons. If it's a new product, you might want to add a decorative ribbon of new on the website so it can get added there. Then defining the website category. So this answers your question. Defining the website categories is going to be an additional step in the first step of the things. Then view the website page of the product, defining the product tile size, making sure that you style the product page and any detail elements, any product specific information you want to add there, you do that and make sure it goes through. So this is your adding product media means. Now in Odoo, it won't ask you to all of those details and confirm step by step on everything. We can set this up to do that, right? But it won't stop you or check the thing in the back end. So marketing and the second activity is right there. So price and position, you make sure you define a base price and you define the extra pricing for variants. Add the price list entries for products if it's a promotion thing. If it has to be a quantity or overall discount rule, you can add that. Applying the price list controls where you say that you need a promotional code for that price list. If you're defining a new product, there may be a promotion that goes with it at the time of definition. All of that can be done here. So this means when you get to this stage, you do all of these things. Now there is some things that you'll also have to maintain. Odoo has a very good functionality aspect of how your product revisions will be handled. So if I say right now, this is a staging environment. If I say right now that I want to start a finished good revision process for some product, I can take my product here, H2034. I'm starting a revision process. Now, which bill of material do I need to revise? I can control that. So if I say I need to revise the baseline bill of material, I can select that and then H2034 revision 2. I can control on this screen who's going to be the main responsible person for making sure everything gets done in time, right? So the responsible is one person, although all across the stages, you will have different people interacting with this thing. And then I define when is it going to become effective. considering that you might be doing a complete overhaul for all the products in terms of redesigning of complete categories being overhauled in terms of the marketing message, the label design or something, you can say that it's going to become effective at that selected date. So maybe mid-year 2022 July end, you're going to do this thing where complete redesign process is going to be taking effect for multiple products at a time. That can be done. But if you say as soon as possible and it reaches this stage where the changes become effective, it will automatically apply the change, and the change being archiving the previous bill of material and making sure that the new bill of material is in place. So I'll show you the stages once over. At the end of it, you see the ECO completed stage is the final stage, and the application of the changes will happen here. Now, I'm selecting as soon as possible here. I can add any notes that I want, right? I can define any rules, anything that I'm trying to do here. Product revision for farm quantities. I save this. As soon as I save this, I get this button. So somebody who's starting this process is going to do this thing, start working with this. As soon as you hit start revision, ECO initiated is the first stage that comes in, right? And then you have your marketing, operations, finance, and quality. In this situation, you have your approvals that are here, but there are no approvals on the first stage. So as soon as I go into the next stage, there comes automatic approvals for Cassie Adams. Why? Because we set the approval stage marketing to have these two approvals. Now, you complete your process, you have access to the product right here. The product stays there, right? It's the revision, the product stays there. And then if you want to change something on that, you complete your things and then you make sure that everything that you need to change is done. In the process, you could also be attaching some products document, right? If I go in and I say this is my new design for the label or something, I can take any image here. Let's say we take this. This is my new label design. This is one document that's attached. One document comes up, and this is my revision 2 of the bill of material at the same time. You see, this is this has already been started. This revision has already been started as a revision. Now in here, I can define instead of the product label 95H2034, there is going to be a second product 95H2034-2 that we create, right? Just for the sake of making this happen, I'm adding this product. Now this is created as a second product. This is my new label, and I've made this change to the revision that I'm doing, not the actual product that's active, right? So if I open up this bill of material that we selected, it's in the same position, right? Nothing changed here. It's the same label. But what I changed there in the backend is the new bill of material, the revision 2 that's started. So in here, I have added this new label product. Going back to the revision, if I try and approve it myself, I won't be able to do that, right? So for this to happen, because Cassie is the only person at the moment who can do this thing, if you need to apply any changes according to the process, you need to come in as Cassie. For now, I'll go in as Cassie. I'll get rid of. I'll keep the screen there, and on the database, I'll log in as Cassie. Give me a quick minute. You have a big list of users. It takes a little moment to come up. Cassie Adams is who we need. Right. Now I'm going to refresh the page because I'm logged in as Cassie now on that screen. The login continues on this one as well. So I'll refresh the page. And when I come in as Cassie Adams, I see the option to approve, right? Approve or reject. In here, it tells me that the approval has not yet been done. So if I'm approving, this means I'm approving for both of them because I'm the single person making this change. So I go in and I click approve. It gets completed. After I have approved, I still have the option to reject before it moves to the next step. And how do I know that I have to approve? I will have been given these activities to complete for ECU approval. So as soon as I've provided my approval, I go in and I complete those activities. And as soon as my things are done, I can go forward and move it to operations. Now in operations, if something needs to be changed, the same way, if a revision to the product is required, the bill of material is required, you go in and make that change anything that's required, and all the approvals for that stage will also come through. So this next one is for Garrison. We log in as him. Now that the login is done, I'll refresh the page. And since I'm now logged in as Garrison, we'll see this thing that I have the option to approve now. So if I see my activities, every person will get their activities. So if I'm doing my approvals, I'm verifying everything and I think it's all good to go, I can provide my approval and go forward. Now going forward means if I try and skip to the finance stage, it won't let me because there is other approvals required in this stage at the same time. So this ensures that you have a management process. Everybody is looking at the product definition or the product revision every time it happens. This ensures that somebody, Autumn had this complaint that every month, at least twice, she has to go in and take a look at all products and verify if something's not wrong. At this point, if let's say we have this approval process for quality at the end of it all, right? And it goes through her every time it needs to be completed. She will have a chance to look at the product when it's happening in real time before making the change happen. Garrett, and you joined a little bit after. This one that we are doing is a finished product revision, right? And then in the finished product revision, we have the bill of material that's active selected, right? And I'm changing the bill of material. So this is the bill of material that's active right now. There is an ECO going around. Now, if I go back to the engineering change order, in here I have the revision bill of material available. So if I'm making any changes to this one, let's say we have changed this label product to be a new one, this is in archive until the whole activity has been completed. It will stay in archived. This way, if you're doing any revisions or anything, they're all kept in check, and you will have a version revision history for everything. So you see this becomes version 2 automatically. The previous one that's active, that's your version 1. This one's still active until the ECO is completed with the effects that you have selected. One more thing that we discussed is the stages. So in the stages condition, as we were discussing before, ECO initiated, it goes through marketing. The marketing will only be involved if it's finished good, it's definition or revision. Operations, finance, and quality, they'll all be involved if any type of revision is taking place. So this is the overall impact of it, and this is the overall process of it. More than a system process, I'm just adding this stage to every type. Oh, I'm not the administrator at the moment.
So if it's a reformulation, where's
Hmm.
the stage for approving a new recipe?
That is in the operations stage in the bill of materials section. We can add another approval, or maybe rename this thing to be something else, or add something more to it. It's going to happen in the very early stages of the product definition. Because Tracy, if I'm go ahead.
I'm just gonna say that's something I do somewhat. I'm getting more
Okay.
frequent requests for reformulating stuff, and this would
Mhm.
make it really nice to have a whole process it goes through that gets approved and signed off, and then she knows how all the changes should be, and, you know.
Okay. So reformulation of recipe for Tracy. That's absurd. Why can't I find you? It seems like you have been taken away.
That's what happens when you go on vacation.
Ah,
Well, but this is what you and I were talking about a half hour ago, is that the reality is that if there's a reformulation, that's being driven, the ECO should be driven by Tracy as the owner, right?
okay. It's completely possible. Tracy could be the person kicking the whole thing off.
Yeah, because that would start it, right? That's
Hmm.
the kickoff of the ECO. And then,
It's
I mean, you
it's
can have,
completely possible. Yes. And Garrett, I'm gonna keep repeating this thing. This is not something that stops you or compels you to do something, right? It's just making sure that you took a look at the process and completed things that were required of you. So it can be 15 approvals per stage, right? Where multiple people are taking a look at something. And when you go in and you try and define this thing. So if I say I need to add another stage of approval, sorry, another approval to this stage for reformulation, and apply that to Tracy. Still can't find you.
Did you fire her, Zubair, or what?
you're gone,
I hope not.
if you're gone for more than a week, you're gone.
Oh, it's possible that Tracy, your own profile is assigned to some other company. It's entirely possible that it happened that way. I'll just come back in and close all the other screens on this staging. So I want to show you a few examples of how this can be useful. Now, we talked about the revision process, and you see there is a second bill of material that gets started. So that could be a recipe formulation after effects. So you do the recipe, right? And on the basis of that recipe, you attach a document to the product, and the new revision document gets attached. And I'll try and run the process in a very simple phase.
Is it the same process whether you're creating a new or revising an existing?
It becomes a little catchy in the new situation, because in the new, you don't have an existing BOM that you want to change, right?
Right.
So in that situation, my recommendation is going to be, when you're whether you're doing a new product definition or you're doing a new product definition with bill of material, you make sure that your product is sitting in archive already, and the bill of material is sitting in archive, because if it's used while you're in the process of defining it, it will become a problem. And since at this point in time Odoo PLM doesn't support starting something new and keeping it in archive, because it's engineering change orders that it's considering, it's not new definition. So if we want to use it in that direction, yes, it's possible. You can have a definition type, right? The type can be there, but you'll have to maintain the changes. So if I start something that is in the direction of new product definition, I can choose product only and the bill of materials definition as well. So let's say there is a new great new product that I define. If I create this product here, one thing we'll have to maintain, that when it's defined for the first time, although it will not be published, right, it will have all of these things. So it can be sold, it can be purchased. So you turn these things off, and as you go along, you keep activating only the things that are required. So you activate the can be sold, but at the same time, since all sales definitions are not set right now, you set a blocking message, the product is in the definition stage and not ready to be sold yet. This ensures that even though you have it active for sale, so if any phone sales come through, somebody when they select it, right, they see this message. Now, when you act, the reason why we need to activate it for sales is to make sure that we are able to add all of these other things. What websites it will be available on, what other product media you have for this product, what upselling and cross-selling products you have attached to this thing, what is the sales description. Unless you have it activated like this, you won't even see the tab. So this is going to be an internal process. How do you manage that? Now, at the same time, if you activate something for purchase, the same thing can be done here. You can set up a blocking message until it's ready. The product is not ready for purchase, right? This ensures that even though you have it activated, it can be stopped. Publishing is essentially going to be the final effect. It's stopping internal users from making sure that it's used. So you can keep it in archive, you can keep it closed, you can keep it blocked, and it can stick there. So if it's archived or something, you can still have it here. The same way defining a bill of materials, the baseline bill of materials is possible. And you'll have to do the same thing. So if you stop it from being used, completely okay. You can use it in the direction of defining completely new products as well. So whoever is starting this thing has to make sure that you're not making it available. The problem that I have seen in the past, the reason why I'm taking you in this direction, even for new product definition, there are products that do not have the right information. We came across just an example today. There was this one product that I believe Jasmine was trying to deliver to an end customer, and in the product definition, let me see if I can also pick that up. Um, I'm not going to find the exact product. I'll have to take a look at the ticket and find that. But what the problem was, in the inventory tab, there is this section of description for deliveries. You had some HTML tags sitting here, like this.
Lovely.
Right? So when it went into the delivery order, Jasmine saw that it was showing on the delivery order printout for the delivery note that you send out to the customer. She came in to Eli and Eli sent in a ticket. She sent in a ticket that I'm seeing this thing and I don't know why. Because somebody left this thing as is, we had to find and go remove. Now, if you are going through the product definition, if it's deactive, it's of course more work, but everybody will be looking at it as it goes through. To answer your question about this thing, it's possible to have it for the new products as well, but it works really especially in the definition of revisions. So I'll go back to this and let's consider that you have this approval, Tracy, that comes to you. Now, you do your recipe in any format you want, you make a document of it, right? And you attach that in the first step like this. As soon as it goes through, right? It goes through and you provide the approval. You see, all of these things will be tracked. What you're changing, what you're doing, and all the approvals, everything will be taken into consideration, and it makes sure that your new recipe is going to come into place as soon as this process is overall completed. So for the sake of running this thing right now, I'll go back to the approval processes. So Garrison has not yet approved. We go back as him and do the approval.
Then during this process, if Cassie's updating pictures and descriptions and stuff for the website, none of that will publish until the whole process is approved, correct?
No, that's where it becomes a little catchy. So if you're changing the product profile, there is no revision, archive, and non-archive for the main product. It's only the BOM that has this thing. So if you need to make sure that the marketing comes into the action last, we can change the stage for them to be last.
Your thoughts
What do you
on that?
think?
Because I mean, how often do we come up with a new product, but we don't even put it on the website until we're ready to actually start selling it? But we need the labels and stuff earlier in the game. So Cassie might have two parts. She might have one section for labels
Mhm.
and that kind of thing, and a separate section for website at the end.
Makes complete sense. So what we can do is, my recommendation for that would be that we let the marketing stage be the last one for any finished goods, and it's only in getting involved when it's a finished good product. The operations could be the first thing, and then in the operation we can, instead of calling it operation because there is too many people involved, we can call it product definition. Now product definition stage, if I open up PLM just now, I can take this stage for marketing and move it to the last, right? So it only becomes active only for these two types, and also at the end. Renaming this stage into product definition, and then having an activity for labels and package designs could be the thing. The reason why we initially named it as it was before is based on the fact that we do have a process on our Lucid chart that says the same thing. So if I open that process up, it's right here, design drawing blueprints, right? New product design, apply to product, attached to ECO, right? So attached to ECO means that when we open up this ECO engineering change order that we're running right here, whatever you attach here will eventually get added to the product profile as well. So it becomes a part of the product attachment automatically through here. So when we get to the end, you'll find it here in the attachments, and you'll find it there on the other side as well, um, for the bill of materials section. So anything that you want to attach to this, yes, the process could be like this, where Cassie is coming in the process of the product definition, and I think we should be able to add the mm, recipe revision. For now, I have added it for the admin, but when we do it for the production, we'll do it like this. So it starts with the recipe revision, right? Then comes the bill of materials, then the labels, and if something is not required at all times, you can simply just approve and say it's not required. And with the approval types, there is also possibility of setting someone as approval optional. So some things are going to be always required, like the recipe revision could be a thing that's optional, because not all the times you'll do this thing. Maybe you're just trying to change the labels and the package designs, but it keeps a track of all things. It doesn't let you go forward without it. So it's going to take your concern, is going to take your comment if that's also a thing. So maybe at the end of it all, Tracy, you could come in and then give your comments about the whole thing, see the bill of material, and see if your recipe is being added here 100% perfectly. So this is what it looks like. Now I want to run this whole thing to the end so you can see how the revision gets implemented for the change order. I'll take this, go out as myself, come in as Garrison. Now this ECU that we had running, now that I'm in as Garrison, I see the approve and reject button. If I approve, my approval goes through and the approval is recorded. Now with the name, date, and the stage where it was taken, all of this is there. Next step, I'm going to come in as Renee and do the approval for Renee. Now the next approval comes in. Now that I'm in as Renee, I go ahead and approve. Next person to do the approval is Tate. At any point in time, if any approval is required, nobody will be able to move forward without it. If some approval is optional, you can still skip to the next level if you need. And every approval will have a sequence as well. So at any point in time, if multiple people are required to approve, they can process their approvals, completing their things, but they cannot skip the stage, considering that it's a stage that requires the approvals to be completed. Now this is my next level, and I'm gonna approve. Next step is now available to be taken. So I take it to finance, and with the finance stage, my approval for finance comes through, right? Verify all details finance.
Always.
Right? Approve that. The next one is Vanessa. Now, this is the final approval that we need on this ACO, depending on how many approvals we define. Now, I can understand that it's a big process, but I'm doing it all at once. In your real process, it will be spread across days, maybe weeks, when the whole process goes through. Right. So this is the final thing. And since the marketing stage approvals, I believe we moved it into the next step. We'll have to do it once over. So Cassie again. All right, approve. Just for the sake of it, if we need to move for, you see this becomes green that it's ready to go. But if I reject this right now, it will stop itself at that point. But I still have the option. So at any point in time, you want to halt this ACO at a process, you can, because something is not completed. And if you're ready once over, you can approve again and go forward. Then in the final step, when I take it forward to ECO completed, you'll see a few things happen. Now, apply changes is available. Hold on. I am going to have to come back as the admin or somebody who has the access to do this thing. All right, apply changes. Now, as soon as I click apply changes, the bill of material that you had active at that point becomes archived automatically, right? And the next one that was part of the revision process, that becomes active and is now going to be used in anything. And it maintains that all the connections that you had previously for that previous bill of material, all of them become inactive, and it tells you that there is an ECO right there. And if I go to the product, the recipe revision that we did is then attached to the product. Whatever documents you had attached, it could be the label design, it could be something else. On. it's not taking it forward into that level, but yes. So the intention is to take these set of documents into the bill of material and the product design at the same time. All of these things will be attached. So you can see this go through here. So the label design is going to come through, and the recipe redefinition can also come through. But most of all, this revision process will bomb, although it can be a practice that you run, right? It doesn't maintain that you have completed all of your things in the right way. So you'll have to define a process internally in terms of a management process. Odoo just helps you run that process in a streamlined way. That's what it is. The PLM module is supposed to make that happen for you. Now, considering the current condition, if we talk about the stages, on the process we had marketing up first. If you want me to move down, we can make that happen. Any views into what we have discussed so far?
I mean, what he's saying is, and this is where it gets difficult, is we have to set up the process, right? So there's a framework that we put in there that'll give general guidelines that he set up, which are good, but the direct portion of how we do it gets pretty complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like 5 gate stages with NTIs where it was like multiple documents on a website. I mean, it was pretty complicated. So this just makes sure that it's like, hey, we need sign off by certain people. How we do that or what's required is going to be, that's.
You can't finish your approval mid making of something else if you're trying to change the process. Like if you have herbal calcium in mid-stage already being produced, if you click that thing in the middle, it's going to archive your old bill of materials and pull from your new.
It's a little different there. So Karen, when you have a manufacturing order already running, that manufacturing order that has a connection to the previous BOM will still have that connection. So no running manufacturing orders will have that impact. Only the new ones created will be on the basis of that revision. So it doesn't do anything midway.
Works, but
Okay. I love the concept. It'll be interesting when we try and put it into use, the learning curve with it.
Yeah, and I think, changing a bomb and doing a new label update is probably a good place to start. And then there's probably one for a new product as well.
Garrett, and when talking about the stages, we have discussed 2 differences between the original process design, right? So the marketing comes in last, considering that the product changes that you'll have will eventually be at the final step. And then on top of the process of defining the bill of material, the recipe revision is the new thing, along with the label and package design going to Cassie. Can we replicate the same? Of course, you don't have to start today working with this thing, but making it available at least to a point that it's there when you want to pick it up, you can. Do you think the stages are right this way, the way they are right now?
Yeah, I mean, so it can get extremely complicated and we can put it all in there, or we can just have major gates where people are involved. So I think it's fine from the start, just so that,
We get going.
yeah, so like, let's say a bomb doesn't change without Tracy knowing it, or, whatever, that she's involved, or Cassie doesn't know, or Kate. I mean, I think those are all, and just getting the right people involved are good, but I think it can be, yeah, anyway, we'll see how we end up using it.
Okay.
And
I have already added the PLM module to the production database, and most of what you have seen has already been added there. So I'll just do the minor revisions there and give you a confirmation that it's all ready to use. When do you see the first change going down?
I don't know.
And Garrett will
So
have access to change that on the fly if he wants to, right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
One more thing that I would like to confirm here. So anything that you're used to doing, this PLM module doesn't stop you from doing that So even with the PLM in place, you can go to bills of materials, right? And do the changes the way you have been doing them. At some point in time, you would want that to stop, and that will have to be done separately because PLM, again, a management process, nothing special about the PLM in its own entirety, right? So if I go ahead and I say this combo I need to change, I can change it on the go without adding in any new version, right? So this is completely possible. I can have something added, something taken away. The version doesn't change. It doesn't stop me from doing it. So we are not stopping that process. So it will have to be a practice between the users that nobody changes the bill of materials, nobody changes the product without starting a PLM ECO. If the ECO is started, yes, all the gates come in the way everybody's going to touch the change process. And it will, of course, it will take more time, but will give you more dependable information around everything. The finished product, the WIP products, even the products that you purchase out from the vendors, the raw materials and the packaging. Because everybody will be involved in making sure that everything looks right, at least for the quality perspective, because they come in last before marketing at the moment. They will be able to verify if everything's set right at matching the GMP compliance criteria. When you go completely paperless on that area, you'll have to have them look at everything. And it won't be a manual guess and trick situation for Autumn or anybody who is looking at it. So I'll go forward and set this up the same way it's there on this staging, and it will be ready to use whenever you want to pick it up. Considering that you might pick it up 2 months, 3 months down the road, if you come up for assistance at that point, we can take a look at it from that perspective and run a refresher. But this training that we did for the baseline coverage will be available on your e-learning at that point to refer back to. But if any specific questions come up, we'll be there. Any questions that you guys can think of at the moment?
Nope, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's a big undertaking to start with PLM. Let me give you a little background into how it went with my own team. Most of the people here in Pakistan and even in the United States don't use this module because it's a big undertaking. So I'm expecting that you guys can gather up the courage to get started with this thing because it takes a lot of courage to restrain yourself because the changes are possible and are easy to do. It's going to be a management practice change, and all of the leaders that are sitting in the room will have to enforce this change. So we have not implemented this full time. Most of the people, I have run this thing previously on an engineering company. They had troubles doing this thing. They manufactured cars, right? Your company is a smaller one, but the GMP compliance perspective, it will be a big undertaking, and to make it happen will be a really great thing to achieve. So I bid you good luck, and let's get going.
Thanks for the confidence.
Ah,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
I don't think I'm supposed to be on this.
Well,
You might need to be the, with overseeing the
Sure.
sales and the retail store and all that, so.
But I think availability is more on the, if we have the products, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that it does is just allows us to take a look at it and say, this is happening, and so you get a chance to weigh in, right?
For sure.
Um,
No, I like it. I think it's great. I think we should practice on something we might be doing next year, like totally.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but a lot of, there might be a reformulation on one, which would be easier to do than a new product. As he was saying, like it can be used for a new product, but it's not really what it's designed for. But if we reformulate some, we could pull out peppermint, use case to test it. We had a couple other things we'd like to reformulate, I just have to get back to my emails.
where do your requests for reformulation come from?
Everywhere.
Scott,
Yeah, so like, how do you decide then what's valid and what's not. That's the,
Based on the use case that's presented with why they want it reformulated, if it makes sense, like, for example, peppermint is drying for a woman's milk supply. So Cassie had pointed out that our stomach aid has a very high amount of peppermint in there. But we have a lot of nursing moms who are using it. So it used to be named morning sickness balm when Kathy first started with it. It was really only pregnant moms who took it, not nursing. So it would make sense, now that we have so many more women using it while nursing, that we remove the peppermint and replace it with something. So to me, it's worth looking at, because it is a use case that is not productive for the nursing moms, and they're using it. So to me, that's worthwhile. It could be Brandon saying, hey, I would like to reformulate this for another flavor, or have you thought about that? It could be somebody brings something to me and I'm like, no, we don't want to change that, it's there for this reason and it's good. So it varies. And then usually what happens is I look at it and if I think it's worth doing,